Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Chicory's Travels. We're Sean and Julie, and today we have some special guests with us, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hello, I'm Heidi.
And Mark. Odette.
And we are full-timers on the road, and we are just starting now our third year. And we are in a Tiffin motorhome, which is a Class A, and it's about 35 feet long, and it's diesel. So we love our home on wheels because we are full-time.
Terrific. And we asked Mark and Heidi to come on today and talk to you guys because in 2019, they spent 120 days dry camping. And I noticed that it looked like you started both 2019 and 2020 in Quartzsite. And everyone hears about Quartzsite, but Sean and I have actually not ever stayed there. So could you tell our listeners what it's like?
Yeah, it's during the first couple of weeks of January, they have the big tent event. So it's a massive white show tent they put up in the town of Quartzsite, and which attracts everybody. And I know Quartzsite is only 2,000 or 3,000 residents, and during that 2 or 3 weeks, it goes to like 250,000 or more. Mm-hmm. They have several areas around Quartzsite, both south side and north of Quartzsite. That's BLM land. A lot of the sites that are south are actually managed BLM. So there's a host, and they do have some minimal facilities, garbage dumpsters and things like that. Both years we've elected to go north. It's out on a road called Plamosa Road, about 5 miles north of there. And when you turn on to Plamosa, it's a tar road that goes to another smaller town. So there's several miles where on both sides of that road is all BLM kind of desertish kind of land, and you just pull off
out there.
and it's very obvious where you can pull off and where people have camped and stuff like that. The first year we actually hooked up with David Bott, who also does a little blogging, because we had not done any major boondocking yet, so we figured let's hook in with a big group.
Yeah.
So we did that, and then last year we actually hooked in with Escapees with their Boomers, Birds of a Feather, the Boomers group, which we stayed in the same area. But the land out there it's very solid. It's almost like a regular gravel road. It's a desert, but it's very clean and open and flat rocks. And you literally just have thousands of RVs out there during that time period. Never had, there's been great. It works great. Yeah. They have in town, there's a couple of groups where you can go in and dump tanks and refresh your tanks, get propane and all that. And so it's worked out really good that way.
What about the weather? Is the weather conducive to boondocking at that time?
Yeah.
Every day is the same. Sun and nice.
Yeah, and in January, both time periods, both years, it'd get in the upper 70s maybe, and then the 50s at night. So you didn't need any air conditioning. Some people would turn on their generators and run their ACs, but we just open the windows and you get a good breeze. And then at night it never really got cold enough to actually fire up your heaters, but it was both times it's like sunny every day. I don't think we ever got any rain.
Wow.
In that time of the year.
I love how you said that you met up with people too, because we went up to that big tent show just for the day. We were staying about 2 hours away, and we wanted to just kind of go see what it was like. And we noticed that a lot of people, well, as a matter of fact, we had friends who were there, and we went and stopped and saw where theirs was. And they almost set up like a little wagon circle, with the RVs around in a circle.
Right, all in a circle.
In the middle.
Yep. And that most of the groups will do that. And some of them are huge. They're like part of the big, like holiday ramblers or, major RV manufacturers will put together groups.
Well, you just drive down the road and you see the signs, you know, all along, like, oh, here, you know, escapees here, and, you know, just like you said, all the different ones. So it was really fun.
So people that haven't tried boondocking very much, I mean, that's one good time of year and scenario where, like you say, you can hook in through escapees or several different groups, or if you can just talk some friends into getting together.
Yeah.
Because then you're not alone. I mean, you're literally right there, and
Mm-hmm.
it's, if you have any problems or anything, there's always 100 people that'll show up in 5 minutes to help you out.
Yeah.
And we really still, a lot of friends from when that first January 2 years ago, we still communicate and talk to and text and things with those people still. Just really good friends, and kind of like, where are you now? Where are you going next? So it just really helps to get kind of settled in right away. And if you don't know how to boondock, everybody around there, how to live off grid, they will help you, and oh, try this and oh, don't use your bathroom as much, or do this or whatever. So it was very interesting. The tricks.
Yeah. We've definitely found that also, that the RVing community is so friendly and helpful, and people keep in touch and come across each other again. I mean, we're the perfect example, right? The four of us, because the next place I want to ask you about is actually Lake Havasu. In 2019, we met in person for the first time in Lake Havasu, but that's not the last time we saw each other, but it's the first time. So we were going there for an Escapers Convergence at the fairgrounds, but you guys, I think, were staying on something called Arizona Public Trust land or something like that, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, that first year, just outside of Lake Havasu on the northwest side, they had Arizona State Land Trust, and it's very similar to BLM land. And you can go online, and it was like $14,
$20 a year,
$20 for an entire year, and you just printed out a tag, and you just, same as BLM land, you just drive in, and this last year we were going to stay there again, but the locals decided they didn't want people parking there because it's kind of halfway between the populated, you know, your Walmarts and all that. It was behind that, but then you go about 2 miles and there's another big residential buildup in that. And they apparently didn't want people camping there at all. And so the state said you can't stop them because it's state land trust. But then the city and county figured out that they own or control the land on both sides of the road in the ditches. So they put a fence up the whole length of the road, so you couldn't get to the state land trust.
So that's another thing too. Even though maybe you're going or heard about this great spot, you always have to check.
Make sure it's
still. Active. You want to be responsible for all the rules, and you know, pack in and pack out. Don't leave anything behind, because if you don't do that and you leave all your trash out there, they're gonna shut it down or close it down. And
and that seemed like it was a really good deal, because some of the RV resorts down there are really expensive around Lake Havasu.
Yeah, and they're full.
Yes, and they're always full. You can't get in.
So, and then you also stayed, I think I have it down, Kofa National Wildlife Refuge. Am I saying that right?
Kofa, yeah.
K-O-F-A.
K-O-F-A. And it's, Kofa is kind of it's south of Quartzsite, so kind of halfway between Quartzsite and Yuma. Okay. And it's another one where it's a beautiful boondocking area. We were in what, Kings Road? No, is it Kings Road?
I think it was Kings Road.
Kings Road.
It stands for King of Arizona.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So,
and because what they have is that there's that same road, you go back into the mountains. So when you're sitting there, you're looking right at these beautiful mountains, and that are on the east of where your rigs are all parked. But about 3 miles up that road, there's a trailhead, and you can hike up, and up in the crevices during the right time of day, the sun will shine on there's some palm trees up in a nook, and they're a native trees, one of the few native trees in the state. And And so you go up there and look at them. And if you're adventurous like we were,
we are.
we actually
we hiked
climbed
up
into them, right close to them. And when you first look at it, it's like there's no way you can climb up there. But I think she put it in one of her blogs. There's
a way up
special route to get you up there, and it's not that bad. But
that's when you do research. Just by going online, it's like, oh, and there's a way up there. If you go on the left side, like the side you think it should work, it doesn't work. But if you go on the right side, there's this little nook that goes behind something. And we've shared that the 2 times we've hiked it now, last year and the year before, we shared that same way, because they're like, no, we tried it. We're like, okay, follow us and we'll go up there. This year we showed somebody how to do that, and they're like, that's awesome.
And is it free to stay there at that refuge?
Yep.
Yep, that's because it's a national refuge, so that was free. And what's really nice is what we normally do to find these spots. We at the very beginning we make sure that there's a pull off, and then we unhook our car, and then we drive back to see where we can drive in. And the very first time we were at Kofa, we've been there twice, but the first time we drove in and it's about a mile and a half in, we saw this lone cactus, one of the saguaro trees, the big saguaro trees, and we're like, that would be awesome just to have our very own saguaro. So that was our first time. We stayed there for a little over a week. And then this year when we decided to go in there again, it was open again. So we had our own saguaro tree bag.
Oh, wow.
So when the sun sets, you can take, the picture was right there, our RV with the saguaro.
Yeah.
That was kind of fun.
So we brought the first year, my younger brother, who's also a full-timer, and they've been doing it over 20 years, but they rarely have ever boondocked.
Wow.
So we took them in there, and they were pleasantly surprised as to, this really isn't a big deal. We can do this.
We can do this too.
And then this last year we were with another couple that hadn't done any boondocking yet either. And we said, hey, we'll take you boondocking then.
Yeah. They enjoyed it too. That's right.
So then you guys went down, you stayed at another place down west of Yuma, I think. Pilot
Knob.
It's called Pilot Knob BLM.
Okay.
And that one actually has 2 sections, right? When you come off the highway, there's a BLM section there that actually is controlled. I think it costs a few dollars a night, but then they have garbage dumpsters and they have a host and stuff there. But again, looking online and reading blogs and stuff, they said if you turned on the road literally like 1 block before that and headed west, there was a gravel road that parallels the highway, and you go in about 2 miles, mile and a half in, and then they said it opened up into 2 huge areas that you can boondocking in. And what was really cool about that one is, as you were driving down this road, you were literally driving between the double power pole lines. So the big double poles.
Yeah.
You drove right through there, and we found out the next day that the road was in really good shape, and we found out that the Border Patrol uses that road 3 or 4 times a day. And we found out what they do on this road, while it's so nicely maintained, is they drag it every afternoon. And then at night, or late afternoon, at night when they're driving their vehicles, they have these infrared cameras and stuff on the front of their bumpers, and they can literally see footprints. And that's how they know if somebody had crossed through there that evening.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So
you learn all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, you really do. It brings up a good point, though. So, a lot of people who are just getting started are kind of worried about boondocking and being, away from civilization where you might not even have a cell signal. Do you guys generally feel safe when you're out boondocking?
Yeah, and I think it's because we've done a lot of research, but knowing us, if we came into an area and it didn't seem right, we would turn around and go out. So
we would
I think you just have to, like, what's your gut say? Does your gut say this is okay? And we usually like to see someone at least in the distance, because then it's like, okay, we see them, they're gonna, so we're gonna watch them, in case something happens, or you know, they'll see us as well because we respect it. It's not like people park right next to you because that's why you're out.
Yeah.
So they respect
it.
They respect distances as we do, but I think every time we've ever done it, you can at least see one or two other rigs.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're never more than a few hundred yards away, and 99% of the RV world are great people. So everybody looks out for everybody else.
Yeah. I think we actually did decide not to in one place. We were just out scouting around. We didn't have our RV with us, but it was outside of Tucson. And when we were driving in there, we saw a lot of glass. We just saw, there was people there. So it was actually maybe even overcrowded. There, we just didn't have a really good vibe. So we're like, nah, we're not going to go out here. So.
Yeah, we're the same way. We pretty much trust our gut and don't wait until too late in the day, because then you kind of feel like you're stuck. It's either that or you're going to be looking for the nearest Walmart or something. So I want to ask you about one place, not in Arizona, but not far, because I know we've both been boondocking close to each other, but not in the same spot, and that's Joshua Tree. So where were you guys at in Joshua Tree?
We were at the south entrance.
And right before, about 2 blocks before entering through the gates, or their little entrance thing, there are actually 2 roads, one going in each direction, paralleling the highway, that'll go for a couple of miles in each direction. And so a lot of people will go into one of those 2 directions. Most of them are really for smaller rigs. I mean, I wouldn't fifth wheel or stay in there. But so we stayed right before where those 2 roads start going in the 2 directions. There's a big parking lot, a parking area that could handle half a dozen rigs. So we literally stayed right there, and
yeah, but that was another time we unhooked and we actually did some scouting, and we thought the further you go back, it was sandier, and if we got stuck back there, it would be really hard to get out. So again, scouting is really one of the best tips to do, because if you get stuck, you're going to be, if you don't have road insurance to get out, AAA, anything like that, you're going to get the dollar bill sign, like, give me money to get out.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, we actually interviewed someone last year for Full-Time Freedom Week who had to get towed because their RV broke down and they didn't have roadside assistance, and it was $500 for the tow. So yeah, it can be pretty pricey. And you could also be stuck someplace without any cell service really too. So then you got to figure out how you're even going to call the tow truck.
Exactly. And I think right there was maybe 1 bar, maybe no bars. Because it was very unreliable there.
Oh yeah, just one quick thing too on insurance. Even if you have your insurance companies, if they say they have a roadside assistance, you have to look at them pretty close, because usually with towing, they'll say you have to be within either 50 or 100 feet of a primary road. So it's like you just got stuck on the side of the road. So if you're out boondocking, that's not a primary road, and they will not cover it.
Right.
Wow.
So,
I didn't even think about that. Yeah.
And when we were at Joshua Tree, we actually stayed a couple miles east of where you guys were at the George Patton Memorial Museum. They have what used to be a campground, I guess, but there's no hookups or anything. It's just dirt, but there's a camp host there, and you can stay there for 7 days for free. But yeah, there's no services. You really are boondocking.
It was really nice though, because we had the tanks, because there were all these tanks for displays in front of us and Joshua Tree behind us. So it was like a
my gosh.
Location. And then also there was the museum, and it wasn't far from a gas station. But we did take just the truck and scout it out where you guys were. But at the time it was so crowded, and we started to drive down one of those side roads like you were saying, and we could just feel the ground getting really loose, the sand getting really loose underneath us. And we had our big 44-foot fifth wheel at the time, and we were like, no, we're not going to try that. So you kind of have to know your rig and know your limitations.
Yep.
Exactly. Yep. But it's hard to, in RV parks, it's hard to get to the scenery and the landscape that you do. I mean, that's why we are out there. It's quiet. but just the beautiful sunsets and the sunrise. Now we have some equipment that makes it a little bit easier to live off grid, but anybody can live off grid. We fortunately have some solar and some lithium batteries.
We put on 6 panels. We have over 1,000 watts on the roof, and then we have 600 amp hours of lithium. And it's a Class A, 35-foot Class A with a residential refrigerator. So we wanted to make sure right up front from day one, we could literally park the rig wherever we wanted to. And with our configuration, especially say down in Quartzsite or anytime you got full sunlight on a sunny, full day suns, we typically don't use more than 25% of our batteries from sunset to sunrise.
Oh, that's great.
And then by 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, they're fully charged again.
Wow.
And we don't hold back on anything. We're watching movies and she's sewing.
I'm
she's
a quilter, so I've got the iron on, and you can just hear it like ticking away. But I don't keep the iron on that much. But I can quilt while I'm in my RV, while we're in the boondocking area that we're staying at. And a lot of times I'll just pull the sewing machine and take it out, set up outside on the
okay.
So, because it's like, has anybody done this before? I bet not. I'm going to do it. So
she's done it where she's been sitting out looking at a lake, and she's out there in the middle of nowhere outside sewing. Or the cactus, because Kofa was one where what we've been doing more and more is the harvest host setups in wineries. Well, you're parked in their parking lot. There might be 2 or 3 other rigs, but you're still dry camping. You have no hookups. And so it's really nice when people come in the next morning and they're like, "You guys are really quiet over there. You didn't hear your generator run or anything." I said, "They never turned it on."
Yeah.
We actually stayed at 2 harvest hosts in Arizona too. One was in Sonoyta, Arizona. It's the oldest winery in Arizona, which I don't know. I never would have put Arizona and wineries together, but it was fabulous wine, and they had 5 acres. So there was, I think, 4 or 5 other RVs there when we were there, but everyone's still very much spread out. And then the other one was in Kingman, Arizona. It was a
rum distillery right next to the airport there. So you did have some airport noise, but after a few glasses of rum, you didn't really think about it.
And the owner even let you drink, taste some of it right off of the still before they water it down. Nice. Yeah. But our favorite boondocking location in Arizona, actually put it up on our screen here. It's Las Ciénegas National Conservation Area. So it was also free for 2 weeks. And we found it, I think, on Campendium. But one thing that we read, and this is the good thing about reading the blogs or using the apps like you were saying, was they said there's some spots right up front, but if you're willing to go further back, you can go a couple miles back and be more spread out, because obviously the spots up front are for the people who are a little more nervous about being out there. And so we went ahead and pulled in. We disconnected because we had the 5th wheel there. And then we took the truck and drove back there to make sure that it was going to be okay. And we felt like we could get it back there. And we found this amazing spot that you see here. You can't see anyone else around us. We could, in the distance, see, how far away do you think they were?
Maybe 400 yards.
Yeah,
so one RV.
Not close, but a little ways away, you could see one other RV. And then we were walking one evening, and there was a place that had some water for horses, not regular potable water for people, but for horses. And they had 2 horse trailers, and they said they come down there every single year, and they boondock there, and then they ride their horses just for miles and miles and miles.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we actually went down and scouted that one. And I think we decided not to. I think it just rained, and there was not too much of a cell signal down there. So,
there wasn't much of a cell signal.
Beautiful. Right. Yep. So, but, hey, really no cell service or that beautiful scenery.
Yeah.
That's right.
That's why we have to alternate, like, between campgrounds and boondocking too is for the cell signal, the internet. So Sean's still working, so yeah, you have to kind of bookend them for us anyway. But that's another thing that made it really easy too, not having to find dump stations and stuff, because if we knew we were going to a campground, then we would just dry camp. I think our longest stretch was 9 days without dumping.
10
days without dumping. Ooh. Yeah, and then
but we made it 13, so we were so proud of that.
Wow. Got us beat.
that was this year. But
that was 13, and things were like, everything was reading like empty and full, and
it's right at the end.
We're like, okay.
And so far we've talked about traditional boondocking spaces like BLM land or national forests and things like that, but there's also some campgrounds that have partial hookups, and they also require you to manage your resources. I think you guys stayed in a place in Tucson, Gilbert Ray, that's right by that national park. That's only partial hookups, right?
Right, that was electric only.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And a lot of your state parks
and city and
county parks are either electric only or electric and water. We have a 90-gallon freshwater tank, and we like to cycle that tank and keep fresh water. So we haven't touched our tanks in 5 or 6 days. So we've taken showers and a couple loads of clothes washed, and
wow.
But you do have to learn how to take Navy showers or just like sponge baths, because if you take a shower every day, you're going to run out of water really quick. So we just have that mentality of living off grid. So I think it carries over even when we're in a full hookup site. Just that mindset is like, we're going to save that water. We're going to use the water we have. So
that washing machine, when you're boondocking, it doesn't fill up your gray tank super fast then?
No.
Not really. It must be very efficient or whatever.
Well, I mean, we both took showers and 2 loads of clothes, and it didn't even register a third of a tank yet.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
50 or 70-gallon gray tank.
Okay.
Yeah.
So those little washers, washer and dry, so 2 separate units, but they're pretty efficient.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess that's the thing for people is just to kind of get to know your rig and your tank size, and for your family, however big that is, whether you're 1 person or 5 people, to test it out maybe at a campground to see how much it's registering on the gray tank, and then
that's a really good idea.
More confident, when you go out. Now, do you guys always go someplace to fill, or do you have like one of those water bladder things?
No, we go somewhere.
Yeah.
Because we typically, like you were saying earlier, if we go out boondocking, we'll usually have 1 or 2 days in a RV park or someplace with full hookups, or even the state parks that have, say, a water electric, and so we can our tanks and then go back out boondocking. So we always come usually to a state park, county parks that have dump stations, or if you do the full hookups, then you can come in and refresh tanks and wash clothes and
get all ready. You kind of have to prepare, okay, we're going out, so get everything just right. Make sure you have groceries so you don't have to keep going back and forth to get those, and just kind of prepare yourself. It's not like it's a lot of work, but just kind of
it's a mindset.
The mindset.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thanks so much for coming on and sharing your expertise with everyone, because like I said, we don't boondock near as much as you guys do. We've done it a little bit, but not nearly as much. So we always like to hear other people's stories and their experiences. And like you said, research is what it's all about. So I just want to let people know that you can go on lovingthervlife.com. That's Heidi's blog, and see some of these awesome places that she talked about.
Yes, definitely. We'd love to and ask questions, leave a comment and we'll get back to you and help you out. That's what I think. We're regular people just like everybody else. So we're not anything special, but it's fun just exploring what the United States has to offer. So
yeah.